past is a strange land, most strange. Wind blows not there, nor does rain fall. If they do, they cannot hurt at all. Men of all kinds as equals range the soundless fields and streets of it. Pleasure and pain there have no sting, the perished self not suffering that lacks all blood and nerve and wit, and is in shadowland, a shade. One of the most interesting and significant social results of the First World War has been the way in which its memory has remained fresh in the minds of those who fought in it. Some of these men now parading on Norwich platform first appeared here 55 years ago, waiting for the train that would take them from the known and friendly Blighty to the unknown, unguessed-at hazards of life and death on the Western Front. Anglia Television, whose news crew recorded an interview with the veteran soldiers, was still indubitably a cornhole, and the only reporters round in those days worked for newspapers. Now, for the last time, the Norfolk and Norwich Ypres Association is making a visit to the field of Flanders, on which its members, then young men from one of the quietest counties in Britain, first came into contact with total war. It's hardly surprising that the Belgian town of Ypres should be the mecca to which the pilgrims journey. It would be impossible to count the precise number of British and Empire troops who fell defending this area in some of the most concentrated military actions the world has ever seen. After half a century, the people of Belgium remember with gratitude the sacrifices made by Allied troops on their behalf. Their welcome to returning ex-servicemen is always courteous, always open-handed. On this occasion, the Burgomaster of Ypres pays formal tribute to his English guests. And R.G. Carter, President of the Norfolk County British Legion, replies on behalf of the Ypres Association. In recognition of what is to be the final organized visit of the veterans, His Majesty the King of the Belgians sends his aide-de-camp to pay his respects to the visitors at St. George's Church. Belgium, so often known as the cockpit of Europe, has more than its share of memories of death and destruction. But it's never become blasé about the war that came close to reducing its every building to blackened rubble. The great Cross Hall itself, a victim of so much bombardment, is a fitting backdrop to the parade of veterans who knew it first in its hours of desolation. The British soldiers aren't likely to forget the sacrifices of the Belgian people, who suffered, troops and civilians alike, such murderous losses during the 5-year conflict. One of the most somber monuments ever erected to symbolize at once man's ability to destroy and his ability to sacrifice himself for a cause he knows is just. Those whose names appear on it have no grave. But since the end of hostilities, the town of Ypres nightly pays tribute to the fallen warriors. Nowhere in the world does the last post sound out with such poignance as here in Ypres. More than one old soldier has cause to wonder what providence it was that spared him from shot and shell, when the air of Belgium was dark with malice, and the life of a soldier was rather shorter at the front than that of any summer bird crossing the coloured counties of England. Before he died, one infantry captain wrote of such men, "They have come to the borders of sleep, the unfathomable, deep forest where all must lose their way, however straight or winding, soon or late. They cannot choose." Many a road and track that, since the dawn's first crack up to the forest brink, deceived the travellers, suddenly now blurs, and in they sink. Here love ends. Despair, ambition ends. All pleasure and all trouble, although most sweet or bitter, here ends in sleep that is sweeter than tasks most noble. After visiting Tyne Cot, the veterans make their way to Poperinghe. This visit, like others over the past 5 years, has proved a focal point for a 12-month planning. It's inconceivable now that these veterans should ever die, having been spared so many times already. They will, they must, true to the old tradition, merely fade away in a dream of crimson poppies and the far-off laughter of comrades in arms. Memories of the younger generation in Poperinghe are those of the Second World War, but the burgomaster is aware of the first great conflict and the friendship it established with the British troops. Even now, after so long, the veterans find it difficult to realize that such towns are no longer composed of debris and corpses and endless trudging miles of Tommies coming and going about hell's business. It's interesting to speculate on what future generations will make of this generation's preoccupation with the war on the Western Front. Posterity will never totally appreciate precisely what those years in the trenches did to and for the soldiers there. It killed the greater part of the nation's fittest and most able men. Those it spared were marked for life. The marks they bear are those of fortitude and suffering. But after half a century, the bearers remember most the good that came of it, the splendor of striving against the powers of darkness, the comradeship that for many has been the greatest sustaining factor in their lives. And it's this comradeship that Fred Cubitt called upon when he began to form the Norfolk and Norwich Ypres Association several years ago. In Sanctuary Wood, they come very close to certain eternal truths. Here, the world of trench warfare is preserved, and the appurtenances of pain and destruction, relegated elsewhere to history books, are exhibited for unborn generations to wonder at. Words written 2,000 years ago have a prophetic ring now, as if the giant struggle in Flanders and the men who were spared there fall into a definable category. The Spirit of the Lord God is on them, because the Lord has anointed them to proclaim liberty to the captives and the opening of the prisons to them that are bound, to comfort all that mourn, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise to to the spirit of heaviness. Violence shall be no more heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders. But thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise.